Alright, we are going to learn how to use physics in SketchUp today. So the first thing that you're going to have to do is install the physics plugin to SketchUp. So what you're going to do is find that in my H drive. So if you go to your folders, you go to the homework drive at WMS Teachers, find S Underwood, click into Turn In, then Assignments, and then there's a folder here called SketchUp Physics Plugin. So go in there. You're going to take these two files and you can just like copy them, like I just did Control C, or you could drag them to your desktop, but just get them on your desktop somewhere. So mine I put right over here. Just have them ready to go. So back in SketchUp then, to install them, what you do is go to Window, Preferences, and then over here, this is kind of where we did the shortcut thing and all the other tools that we set up, but there's one called Extensions. So click that, and then down here, Install Extension. It will ask you what extension do you want to install. Go to your desktop or wherever you saved those two files from my H drive, and you're going to have to install both of them. There are two. So there's the MS Physics and there's also this library file that you have to install for them to both work. So go ahead and click both of those, let them install. I've already installed them, so I'm not going to do it, but you'll just click those to open them. Eventually, you can see like all of these were the ones that I've installed so far, so you should have both of them installed. You might have to, you'll hit OK for the option that it brings up. Just make sure it installs all the way. You might have to close SketchUp and restart it for it to show up, but if so, you'll get all of these little windows. So you'll have your bar up here that you can drag around. I think at the beginning it might start them like on your screen down here, but you can just drag them up into your top bar to kind of get them out of the way. So once you have both the extensions installed, we can start to use them. So we're not really going to worry about most of this stuff right now, but there are some cool things that we can do with that. We'll talk about that maybe another time. We are going to do some physics. So what we're going to do, we'll just start. Go ahead and make a rectangle. So R for rectangle, doesn't really matter the size. P for push-pull, push it up, and just have a platform. Now it's really, really important in MS Physics that you make things components. Everything has to be a component. If you want the actual physics to work on it, whether you want something to like fall over or drop or roll, everything has to be a separate component. So I'm going to triple click that, right click it, I'm going to say make a component. Now, up here in this little play bar, this is where you're going to control your animations or your physics. If I hit play, you'll see the physics starts and my box just drops right out of the screen. I hit stop, my box isn't there anymore. That's a problem. So I'm going to do Control Z to undo, so that gets it back. In order to get your animation kind of reset after you play it, we're going to click this UI button. Time to go to class. So the UI means user interface. So what we're going to click on is this option right here that says undo on end. That means when I end my animation, it's going to undo all the things that move. So if I had a ball that was rolling away or dominoes that got knocked over, it's going to undo all of that when I hit that stop button. It's going to reset my options, okay? Now, for this box, I just clicked it and you'll notice I get a bunch of options for it, okay? So there are tons of things that you can do in here, like changing the weight, changing friction, making things magnets, elasticity and softness can come into play. So there's lots of different options that maybe we'll talk about in a future video, but on a basic level, we're going to talk about just making things called static or not, basically. If I make something static, so this button right here, it says if I hover over it, static bodies don't move. I don't want my platform to drop away. I want to have some kind of platform that I can put stuff on top. So I'm going to click static. I have a couple other ways I could do that, by the way, just so you know. I could say up here, I could set my collision shape. I could make it called a static mesh. I could do that. I can also right click it, go to the MS Physics button or little rollout menu right here. And again, I could go to the shape and say this is supposed to be a static mesh. Basically, static means it's not going to move. If I hit play, my box doesn't move. Okay? Let's go ahead and draw something on top. A box, a pole, whatever. So I'm going to just make another rectangle. I'm going to push pull that up. Again, I'm going to triple click it and make that a component. Kind of a fun thing you can do now. If I hit play, notice this one, I said it was static, it's not going to move. With this piece, since I haven't done anything yet, I can start like dragging it around. I just threw it off. And you can move it. Hit stop, restart it. It is now a movable piece. The physics are applied. So if I'm dragging it, you see it falls right over if I let it go. I don't want to set that as static because I want that to move. So I could theoretically make some dominoes now. If I do, let's see, Control C, Control V, maybe I'll do another one. And if I wanted to play, I could knock the dominoes over. And you can see that they all perform the physics. So again, stop will undo on end. What you can do now is make a game. So for example, on this video, we're going to do a Jenga board. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my 3 dominoes. So now that I have my platform, what we're going to do is we're going to build our Jenga pieces on top. So we're going to have, if you ever played the game, there's like a stack of 3 wood blocks and then another 3 at a different angle, another 3, and it keeps going into a tower. So let's make some blocks, shall we? So what I'm going to do is use my R tool. Let's make them 1 foot by 3 foot because my platform is really big. So 1 apostrophe, comma, 3 apostrophe gives me a block. I'm going to push-pull that up, we'll say by 1 foot, so 1 apostrophe, hit enter. Okay, so we need to make that a component. Do that. Let's go ahead and before we start copying it, let's give it a name up here. So up here in this simulation, or the UI, I'm going to give it a name. And the reason I'm doing that is because we have this option over here that says assign properties to everything with the same name. So if I want to go and change the weight of this block or something later on, and I have like 50 of these things, then I want it to apply to every single one and not have to go manually to every single block. So if I just call this block Jenga, and then I make copies of it, so if I go back over here, and I hit M for move, maybe Control now, we'll do a copy move. Oops. Maybe I'll copy another one. So now I have my 3 blocks, and they all have the same name, and I accidentally kind of hit M instead in the text box when I was trying to move, so now they're called Jenga. Anyway, I have our 3 blocks, and now if I change one property like the weight of it or its softness, if I want it to be like heavier or something, it'll change to everything. So I made these 1 foot by 3 foot blocks. What I'm going to do now is hold shift, grab all of them because I want to make my next row, hit M for move, Control will give me a copy of it, bring that up. I need to rotate these now, so I'm going to go in the center, click once in the center, click once right there, rotate it. You probably will need to hit M, then move it back in the corner. Again, drag from the little corner piece. You'll see that purple circle up here, which will let it click into place. So now I'm starting to build my board. Now, with all that, I could just shift-click all of this and make a copy of that. I could just do that again, or I could just say, I want all of that now. If I can do it. So I'm shift-clicking all of my boxes, hitting M, hitting Control, makes another copy of the stack. All right, so that should be pretty good. So let's just see what happens if I hit play. You'll see this doesn't move, because that was my static option, but I can move these blocks around. So what I could do is pull stuff out from the sides, and my tower is basically just like the real Jenga board. I could pull stuff out, and eventually it can tumble. And you'll notice everything follows rules of physics. This one knocked into that, it's falling down. It's pretty realistic. Okay, so I'll hit stop. If I feel like my blocks aren't quite right, like there were some in the middle where I was trying to pull, but they weren't quite coming out, this is where you're going to get into some of these settings over here. I could adjust the friction. Friction is how things are rubbing against each other. So if my blocks want to slide out better, maybe you play with the friction. Maybe you play with the softness. The softness means, and I'll show you here, if I change one of them, remember when I hit assign props do the same with all name, it's going to change everything. If I change this, and by the way, it says down there, I can set it between 0.01 and 1. So let's just try if I put it at the max softness and hit play. Nothing really changes all that much. Maybe it gets a little bit harder to push down. So I'll change that back to 1. Maybe I'll change the elasticity to 2. That says it's the max. Sometimes it's fun to just play with stuff. Elasticity is how much it bounces. So like you can see, that one just kind of bounces all over the place. If I drop this onto the table, it kind of bounces. Maybe not as realistic as it should. So you can kind of play with the options and get a good board. So basically, I've made a Jenga board. I could have fun and maybe use my paint bucket and color some stuff and make a little game. So that's basically how I made that Jenga board. And it's playable. So I hit play. I can pull stuff out. You could have a partner and you have a little contest. You take turns, see whose goes eventually. And yeah, you can even like hold this down and drag stuff around. Let me just open up, I don't know if I can find it, one of the other examples that I made before. It's just kind of a cool project to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do. And we want you to play with this. You can see, basically, I kind of made a Rube Goldberg type machine. If I hit play on this, I have a ball. This is a static mesh, so the ball then is going to go on that mesh. That doesn't move. It's going to go. It's going to hit that, which knocks that, which spins that little cylinder down here, hits that, which flies over, hits my Jenga board over there, and knocks all that stuff into a bowl, which then kind of tumbles around. So I was having fun with it. Again, the pieces that I didn't want to move, I made static mesh, and like that, all the bases and stuff, and everything else, I just played with some of these settings, friction and the weight, especially up here, and tried to make them work. So have fun with it. Try to get a Jenga board going, and have fun trying to explore other physics possibilities. Maybe try to make a Rube Goldberg machine. Good luck. Have fun.